What's going on, everyone? You are tuned into She Said What She Said, the podcast where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. So, I took a little bit of an extended, shall we say, summer vacation. I did my last show in June, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to take a couple months off, and then I'll be right back at it. And I just kept feeling like I needed to do something different and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to half ass it. I didn't want to come back like every, twice a month and do it. So I needed I needed another person is what I needed. I needed to fix this, not fix it because there was nothing wrong with it. And I had some amazing women that served as guest hosts, but I needed someone permanent. I needed someone to treat this like their own baby as well. And so I was thinking for a bit of like, who would love this like I do? Who would be someone that I want on the air? And then, yes, John, I'm back. I never went anywhere. It was always going to be here. But then Jordan got married. Jordan is one of my ninja buddies, and I go to his wedding, and Rachel and I get there. I actually drove with Leo, and we're at our table with our ninja people, and I see her in this stunning, stunning blue dress, looking like all types of snacks and just one of the most beautiful women you'll ever see. And she's a woman that's part of my circle, but like, we're like the Facebook friends, Instagram friends, and there she was in person. And I hugged her and I spoke to her and I was like, she's the one. She's the one that I want to ask to be on my podcast with me, which is like such a big ask because it's basically like, will you go out with me? Will you commit to doing something with me for every week for extended period of time? That's what it's like to ask someone to be your co-host. So I sat on it a bit. I wanted to make sure that I was ready to fully invest myself back into this project. And when I shot her a message. And you guys, she said yes. I put a ring on it. And so let me tell you though about this woman. So I'm a AltaFit coach. AltaFit is the adult fitness classes at Ultimate Ninjas. We teach obstacle course fusion. We teach group personal training. She is also one of those coaches. She is a massage therapist. She's a personal trainer. She's a model. If you have not seen her Instagram page, I would 100% recommend going there. I had to tell T to tone it down when he was trying to make her promo because I was like, we're not trying to do America's Sexiest Woman. We're trying to do badass women here. But woo, she's fine. And on top of that, though, she has been an American Ninja Warrior. Like this woman is the epiphany of badass. And she also loves other women. She is not a woman that's ever going to like compete with other, you know what I mean? She wants everyone to have the love. She is outspoken. She was just everything that I wanted as a co-host. And so I'm very, very excited to officially, drumroll, introduce my co-host, Miss Faydra.
Hello. What an introduction. Oh my gosh. I'm in all the feels over here. You're going to make me cry and the season hasn't even started yet.
Oh God. Yeah. We're a couple of minutes in here. 5 minutes in. We're going to get the first tear.
I know. Thank you. That was, I couldn't have asked for a better intro and I didn't tell her to write that, folks. That was all her. But I am so grateful for the opportunity. And I'm so happy you asked. And I didn't even would never have even thought, because doing a podcast is something that, I watch a lot. I engage with a lot of different podcasts because that's the thing to do. You learn a lot. And I had thought about it for years and years and years. And so, and like you said, and it was really cute because when I got there, we were like in the blue and the red, like all cute.
Yeah.
And so, I definitely, when you asked, I was just like, I remember I calling my friends. I was like, guess what? I'm like, I get to do it now. So thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for having me. I hope that I can treat your baby, like my adopted child as well.
It's
So
your
thank
own
you.
now. It's your
Yeah.
baby as well.
Yeah.
This is and it's because you met all my qualifications. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
It is because of right, like so much of what I do is I want to empower women, and it can be. I mean, there's a lot of women that are into empowering women, but there's a lot of
thank you,
women
Jen.
that are not necessarily. They might feel threatened or this or that. Um, and we really so one, I had to find a I haven't done the podcast in a while when I don't have my booster seat up. Hold on. There we go. I'm like, this isn't correct. This isn't how I see. I sit in the booster seat. Thanks. Yeah. But so one part about you is, how much I feel like you do want to empower women, right? So you
Yeah.
have that one. And then also how much you do in the fitness industry, what you do for that. I mean, you've been on American Ninja Warrior. Like, you've done some really awesome, awesome things. And so it was just like, and you're so talkative and outspoken, and you just have that aura about you.
Yeah.
I didn't write any
Yeah.
of this beforehand.
I
This is
know. Okay. Yeah. Talkative is not something that I fail in doing. I try not to, like overpower conversation, but I do try to get my point out. I am learning and I have learned to like really listen before
Mhm.
I speak and to learn how to communicate. And, I think in our world, and you're pretty social, from what I can see, and just in social in all different circles. So it's like you, or I, we adjust sometimes how we have to communicate, and that's been something very special. And I've worked with a lot of different people to be able to do that. So it's
Yay.
another platform to do that on.
Exactly. But so I wanted to do today is you're the guest. I want to know all about Phaedra because I only know a little bit about you. You know what I mean? And so I
Yeah,
want to, just like I interview all my other guests, I know you watch some of the shows. This is
yeah.
you. You are the one. She's like, well, what's our first topic going to be? I'm like, uh, hello, the new person that's going to be sitting behind the camera every week. That's our first topic.
All
Um,
right.
So
Oh,
I want to, kind of thinking it from the sports journey. So tell me about early childhood, Phaedra. Were you an athlete? Were you competitive? Were you a tomboy? Were you a girly? I didn't like to get
yeah.
muddy. So tell me about
Oh, I'm
your
surprised about that. Well, my very first memory of being competitive, well, working out. So my mother was a aerobics instructor, so she will always tell you that
uh,
it is her doing that. I got into it because apparently I'd sit in her classes in my little playpen and bounce to the music, which is probably where I came from my love of dance and music as well.
okay.
So from then on, my first love of being competitive was back in kindergarten. We had this like field day, like where you
Hmm.
took a half day of school. It was like right that probably late spring before school got out, and we would do races and just do all these little kid things. And Mom, if you're watching, I need to find these blue ribbons because I got all these blue ribbons in all these different events, and a couple yellow, a couple red, and we won't talk about those. No, but I got these ribbons because I like ran and I just was so proud of that. And so I think that was a great start to where I was like competitively, but also, always feeling then like winning was everything. So there's that like, that whatever up and down. So sport wise though, I've always been active, growing up in an era that like we were always outside climbing trees, making mud pies in the dirt, like always outside playing with the other kids in the neighborhood. And I did, uh, let's see, junior high, I was in track and field. And then going into high school, track and field basketball. I loved track and field. And however, I did not love the fact that track and field was in spring, and Midwest spring is cold, and I am a child when it comes to cold. So we would be outside and it was 50 degrees and raining and cloudy, and I was miserable. So I didn't extend that. And our coaches, although they were motivating, our coaches, which in a lot of high schools, they take on coaching as a second job. It's like to make some extra money. So as motivating as they are, they don't know about the sport. Our track and field coach was a marathon runner. I did sprints and high jump. So while they were like, yeah, you can do it and you're good, I didn't get the nudge that I needed to really stay in it. So I think I could have gone really far with it had I stuck with it, but I decided to then take a job at a bunch of different jobs. But end of high school, last couple of years, I worked at this tanning salon / personal training facility. And the owner was a bodybuilder, and I watched him really start changing lives. Like, he became just my mentor, and I learned the art of fitness from a lifting standpoint. He was, he has his story of coming from Poland, and like similar to what you would see like in Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he was living in a gym, cleaning, didn't have anything.
Yeah.
It was inspiring, and I enjoyed the fact that sorry, this earbud keeps falling out. I liked how he was changing lives, and I was like, okay, I want to do this. I originally wanted to do sports psychology, which would have meant lots of school. And then I found this way to touch people's lives and be an ally in the fitness world. And so 25 years ago now. So I've been doing personal training and fitness coaching for 25 years. And I love it. I love watching people get stronger. I love the women that I work with, their confidence, how their bodies have changed, how they view themselves, and just create different patterns in their life that are healthier. I think you can relate, like even being in the fitness world, we also love to have a good time. So I'm not the person that's like, I like to be fit. I think a lot of time I say I work out because I really love food. And a lot of my posts will be, the little memes of the kids eating and they're like dancing and smiling. And that's me, at my age. I will go to a restaurant and dance at the table when my food comes. And so I think it's a good balance, and I think I have got into the, Ninja Warrior. I did fitness competition.
How did you get into Ninja Warrior? That's what I don't know. That's what I want to know.
Back in 2015, my friends would send me, it was like, Facebook and Instagram was different then. So like they would just like, you would just like write something and it would just pop up. And they were like, I watched this show. I could totally see you on it. And I started watching it, and I was like, and then like 3 people did it in 1 year. And they're like, and so I'm not one like to give up. Some people, I'm fueled by when people like, I think you could do this. And it never has crossed my mind. And I'm like, can I? I don't know. But I'd like to try. So I found the one gym in Chicago, which was like out in West Chicago or something. And it was like an hour-and-a-half drive. They only had a Saturday class. First day I go, I'm like, I'm strong. I can do this. No problem. Yeah. So I got my butt handed to me that day. And the first day I go, there was a bunch of these like college kids there, and they tried to do the warped wall, and the kid came down, broke his ankle because he like came down he turned
around. No.
Yes. So, and he was told not to, but like these kids, these guys looked like they were like all baseball, hockey, something like that. And his season was going to be over, because it was like middle of the summer, and when you break an ankle, it is what it is. So I was like, oh, well, this is what I'm getting into. And so it was super fun. And it was more mental. And I realized that I although I was strong, ninja and obstacles is not just about physically being strong, but it's also about technique and
Yes.
breathing. And like, there's a lot
Yeah.
that goes into it. So, I practiced, did some good stuff, and season 10 came along, and I was like, I'll just go for it. Like, I didn't expect anything. And, a lot about Ninja Warrior, the show, is your story.
Yeah.
And so my story was based on, me just with my family dynamic of, coming up in a mixed family, going through eating disorders, like all these things. And so, like, they wanted to use that. And unfortunately, I didn't get like published or like on the show. I fell off on the second obstacle, but I had some really amazing friends. Thank you, Maddie. He recorded backstage, which we weren't supposed to do, but there was a TV screen and he recorded for me. So I have my like run on tape, that I can always see me just falling 30 feet in the air into that cold, cold, cold water. Fun experience. And then I went on to doing like the local competitions. And, I did well. I had fun with it until I didn't. And like with anything, it gets, you're just competing. And as you may know, a lot of, especially at that time, the pros that were there, like that still are, that pretty much own their own gyms now. Their time to practice is like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And I'm a 4 a.m.er where I wake up, I work out in the morning, I do I know we talked about before.
Please tell the world how weird you are.
Yes. Oh, they will find out. Trust me. You're all going to know my weirdness. So yeah, so like that was the Ninja Warrior stuff. I did fitness competitions. I think I just competed in 2 in 22, and those were like number 15 and 16. That world has changed a lot, and I have fun with it. And then once again, as many people that know me, I like get into fitness things, and I get out because I like it to be fun. And as soon as it feels like work, I'm kind of like, all right, I need something else that's fun. Because
you need a new challenge.
Challenge. And being in the fitness world, it's like I'm there all the time. So gym time, working out, it can be fun, and I like to keep it new. So yeah, that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, someone asked me the other day, like, oh, how long are you going to do Spartan Race? Which I have a Spartan shirt on today. And I'm like, until I don't like them anymore. You know what I mean? Till I like am not excited to train. I'm not till it no longer motivates me to work out, and then I'll find something different. But like for now, but for now, like that's what motivates me. So I totally get it, right? Because you can fall out of love in the sport. And one thing too about Ninja is because this, like when you started in the sport, it was a little bit newer, right? But it's been around long enough now where we have teenagers who have been doing it since they were children. It's just like, and then I know they've disproven Malcolm Gladwell's theory of the 10,000 hours to be proficient at something, but you have kids that literally have 10,000 hours of practice and they're 17.
Yeah.
And as I tell Leo, these kids have no joint pain. They have no fear, like nothing in their body is there, and they're flying through the air, and they're so young, they're light. You know what I mean? And some of them haven't. The one thing though that I do worry about when we look at our sport, I don't compete in Ninja, but in the Ninja world, when I look at our sport, the thing that sometimes freaks me out, I was actually talking to a couple of Squid Game guys about this at the gym. It was,
Kevin.
Yes. And Roland came in to visit.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so fun. But what I was telling him is that we have women, especially women, I always worry about women most, competing at this as a young age before they go through puberty. And, I saw one of the girls in some of these shows, they still haven't hit puberty yet, but they're in this national spotlight. When their body starts to change, I don't want the sport to discard them. Like so much has been done in like the gymnastics world, in the figure skating world, in the long distance running world, because there is going to be a couple years where they're going to have to their hips are, you know what I mean? Their joints are going
Yeah,
to
the
start,
joints.
things are going to change. And
Yeah.
so I'm worried about that.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. I hadn't really put much thought into that. But you see that in a lot of different sports, and two of which you've, said, even, in the track and field world, you start early, like how you run. And then as you're getting older, your body's like hips, that's a real thing. We expand, we get breasts, we get, like our periods, and like even how we train, and just how we feel during our cycle is like, it's going to affect a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping that, obviously the technique, the concepts of how a young person will start off with, they can grow into, and we do have so many female coaches out there, which is wonderful. And so
Although I
being,
do know female track coaches that have encouraged eating disorders too, so I don't want to
oh
do a
yeah,
blanket thing,
no,
but I do hope that, having more female
yes,
coaches in is
yes.
going to help for sure.
Yeah. Well, and also I think too, um, now compared to back in the day, there's so much more knowledge on nutrition, and how to like, and fitness, like, and like fitness nutrition and athletic nutrition, and that, being leaner, like as an athlete, you do have to eat more, 100%. Like athletes, if you look at athlete's body and you look at a body of someone that's trying to stay like super lean and ripped all the time, it's not usually the same. It's not always going to look the same, because, and food's going to be different. Food for performance versus food for aesthetics is going to be different. So instilling that in our girls too, that, yes, your body's going to change and how you eat will have to change, but going to someone that's, can help you with that, rather than talking to your coach and be like, yeah, just don't eat that candy bar. Yeah, you can eat that candy bar. It's okay. It's okay to eat carbs.
Yeah.
It's okay, but
yeah, it's, it's on my, I've been reading, I read Good for a Girl, which was really impactful to think about. And I just finished reading Up to Speed, which is a woman looking into basically the research and everything of where we are science-wise for women. I mean, to like think about how it wasn't even until the 70s when the sports bra was even first invented. And that the woman that who got the research grant to create sports bras basically was like laughed at by her peers, of saying like, why do you need to study boobs? They only go up and down.
Yeah, strap a pair on him, I bet.
Yeah. But it's like, oh my God. And so, kind of like reading these things and just thinking of so much of like, going into it, it is. And so then when I see very young women competing on the national scene in this, I'm like, because it's not just her coaches that I worry about, it's also about her too, right? Because when you have all that attention and everyone watching you, and then you have a few years where your body's changing and you're not doing as good, I just worry for her mental health. And I hope that, and I'm just saying her in general, right? Because I've seen a few of them, and some of the guys too. Some of the guys haven't quite gone through puberty yet as well. Like I hope when these young kids go through puberty, they don't get discarded from the sport, and they also understand that their body's changing and they learn how to work with their body.
Yeah. Well, we will be advocates for that as people get older, and then hopefully, like, coaches, men and women coaches, will understand that it's a thing, and it's not just, it's once they'll recognize and become aware and be aware as coaches. It's not just about coaching the sport, but you're also working with that individual, all the individuals on a different level. So, and finding the right people to talk to as a coach to be able to handle the situation. Because, a lot of kids, they don't want to talk to their parents about it. But if you're aware, you can see, you're spending all this time with these kids, and you really should be able to see changes. And I think it's part of the job to notice the changes. Like with my clients and in my small classes, like I can tell if someone's like PMSing, like especially my women, or if like there's one of my men clients who's going through some stuff, like you just, it's something that I've made it a point to really, be aware and intuitive on that. And so hopefully, I really I really hope that across the board that these kids in these classes find trust in their coach. And I know there's just been so much and gymnastics is a big one. Like you said, gymnastics, figure skating, there's so much bad raps and it's so sad. It's so I don't know. I hate hearing about all this stuff because it just makes it gross. It's just gross.
It is,
Because there's so many coaches out there that don't like deserve that. So, we just hope for knowledge, education, and know that as a coach in a child's life, you really do matter, and you need to be aware. You need
and
to
you need to be the
know your
advocate for the kid.
and
You know what I mean?
yes,
That's
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah.
So we had a question come in. So I need some advice for stretching. Is yoga a solution? So we can both speak on it. I've been doing yoga
Yeah,
since I was I want to say 18, and I'll be 40 this year. So I've been doing yoga for a long
yeah,
period of time. I would say
same.
flexibility is a side effect of yoga.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a difference. So first of all, yes, it will help, but yoga is so much more than glorified stretching. And it's hard to explain unless you do it, but there's so much of the breath work that you do, the flow, the intuitiveness of small shifts of your hips. But
Mhm.
if you continue to practice yoga, you will most likely get more flexible. And hey, I'm back. What's
Yeah.
up?
Thank you.
And welcome to Phaedra.
Thank you, Crazy.
Now, are you a yogi yourself?
I don't know if I'm a yogi, but yes, I incorporate yoga into, I won't say daily, but I do lots of downward dog, my favorite stretch,
Mm,
and a lot of pigeons. So I try to do yoga a few times a week. And I think you're right though. The breath, the breathing part of it. I do a lot of mobility and flexibility, which are two different concepts, but I think having those hand in hand, um, offer great benefits to being more flexible. I do say that if you were never able to touch your toes, you probably won't ever be able to. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's somebody asked me that the other day. They're like, I've never been able to touch my toes. They're 50. And I was like, I mean, go for it. Reach for the stars or reach wherever you're reaching
mhm.
and try. Go for it. But also there's a lot to be said too in yoga, especially I see a lot of injury come out of yoga. And it's, the idea that, you know, there's improper ways of doing a downward dog or doing
Yeah.
certain stretches. And then you get yourself hurt because you've pulled a muscle that should not have been stretched that far. So, stretching is also hand in hand with patience because you're not going to go from being able to touch your knees to touching your shins to touching your toes in a week. So
Yeah.
give it time. Yeah.
And it's one of the best things too about yoga is props like blocks, things that will help you get more height, but be able to sit into the pose. Because when you do when you sit and reach for your toes, you're arching your back. You're actually not activating what you should do. So yoga ways to reach up and then fold over. So you might not
Yeah.
reach as far, but you're actually getting a better stretch in your hamstring. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so and the key thing too when we think about incorporating, because usually about every other week I do a actual vinyasa session, but we want to think about doing dynamic mobility before a workout and static stretching after a workout.
Yeah.
One of my regulars at AltaFit, Greta, she's a huge yogi, and
Yeah.
she always loves my warm ups because I always put in little yoga ish sequences. I never really thought about it, how other people do warm ups, but I do a lot of go to pike and then go to the
Oh,
pigeon and then go to the little baby
yeah.
cobra into the down. And she's like, you just have mine just
Good
it's
flow.
the same thing, but I have a little bit. I try to put a little bit of a yoga flow into mine. And I
Yeah.
never really even realized that I did it until
Yeah.
I pointed it out. And then I realized, oh yeah, I do approaches from a yoga standpoint before the warm up.
Yeah,
Foam
which
rolling
is
is good
great.
too, just that
Yeah.
myofascial release.
Oh,
Epsom salt baths help the muscles recover. All these things help when we think about flexibility, because it is more than just stretching. It's just like letting the body go to its
yeah.
best when. And as
Yeah.
first of all, I have to watch, look, because what does Faydra do? Definitely, this is what I'm saying, man. This is the girl. She is her. She is her. When I was looking for a co-host, this is the woman. But a bum.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thanks, Crazy Ace. There are a couple things I don't do.
What don't you do?
Um, I was going to say sleep very well. But no, I'm getting better at that. No, I guess what I don't do, I don't know.
See?
Gosh, I know. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there'll be something.
Something will
Uh,
pop up. Long
Something
distance
will pop
running.
up. Oh, yeah. Well, I used to, and I've kind of given up with all my knee stuff. But I do actually enjoy a good long distance run. I started doing rock walking instead back during
Oh,
the
girl.
quarantine. That, because I had time, because what else were we going to do, right? Like, I was working, but not as much. So I just had like
Sure.
3 hours to kill. So let me go walk for 10 miles. It was great. Um, yeah. I was going to say too, going back to the stretching. So I joined this gym, I guess you can call it, fitness studio called Hot Works back in 22. And it's basically, because the infrared sauna is another way is really good for muscles. And because I love the heat, like give me 120 degrees in Vegas and I'm good to
No, I
go.
do not want to work out in the heat.
So it's one of
No
these
hot
things. So
yoga.
I like, no hot yoga for you. Okay. So 3 times a week I'll go, and I'll do like a spin class or whatever. It's all virtually done. And they have yoga, Pilates and all these other
Mhm.
classes. And, I found that just was like, you get step in, it's like 130 degrees and you're just melting, like legit melting. And so my body's all warm and I get out and I've got this like euphoric high and just my system feels so good. So I really reached a lot of different levels of my not having done yoga for like a year,
Mhm.
getting back into it. I was a little down on myself because I was doing some poses and I was dying. I was dying.
Too
And so, yeah, no, not because I was hot, but because I couldn't hold these poses.
hot.
I was like doing a side plank and I'm like, can the 45 seconds be over? And I was like, yeah, now I know what my clients feel like. So I'm there with you people. I was dying too. But yeah, so it's another way. So infrared saunas, is another way is good aside from detox, but another way to like get your muscles to be a little bit more, stretchy bendy.
Mhm. I just
Yeah.
realized I have a lotus flower necklace on. So while we're
Ah,
talking about yoga, I legit have a lotus.
nice.
And I also
It's
have a lotus
beautiful.
flower tattoo on my foot too. So it's
Oh,
good for yoga.
why did you get the lotus flower tattoo?
Well, I think of it for yoga, lotus flower is one of the symbols for it.
Yeah.
It's considered disrespectful to get a namaste and the om tattoo lower than your hip. So I wanted to do a yoga tattoo on my foot, and then read into it. I was like, oh, it's considered disrespectful to put those on your
Right.
feet and stuff. So I wanted something that symbolized it, but it wasn't culturally disrespectful.
That, that was
So
nice of you.
yeah, so and I just love the how the flower is, and so just kind of one of my many tattoos is I
Mm,
got that one. But yeah, I just realized I was like, I'm wearing that necklace today, and here we are
yeah.
talking about yoga. So I learned yoga from it's like this old book. It's like a 1970s yoga book that my sister gave me. It's like a day by day. It's like a 30-day guide to yoga.
Oh,
Is how I first started doing it on my own. And one of the things that it kept saying was how with yoga, you build heat from within. Like I'm a
yeah.
huge build heat, but it was also like you can't drink water, when you're doing it because you'll like
Oh, yeah. Cool it.
wash out. But so that's why part of the reason why I don't like hot yoga is because I like to feel as I'm going through
Ah.
my actual inner heat going. And I also never drink water when I'm doing it. So I like
No.
legit, I'm like this fucking hippie when I do yoga. Also, I went to hot yoga one time and there was this dude in basically a Speedo next to
Yeah.
me and he
Yeah.
smelled, and I'm
Yeah.
very sensitive to
Yeah.
BO and I just could not do it. Oh my
Oh,
God. I
gosh.
run a lot. I live off Lake Michigan. I live a few blocks off the lake. And honestly, that is my happy place. Greatest place in the
Yeah.
world to run. Like
Yeah.
just a couple blocks over. I go north, I go south. Love it.
Yeah, that's what I used to do too. I loved, like, when I lived in the city. I'm back in the suburbs now, but when I lived in the city, definitely loved running Lake Michigan. I remember this one time it was like 85, 90 degrees outside, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go for a run. I ran all the way up to Broadway pretty much, or yeah. And my eye at the time I had like an eye touch and it died, and I was like, I gotta run 7 miles back without music. I was like, oh, I made it, but it was just like, because you just keep going. You don't even like, you're just like looking at the water. You've got the city, you've got like greenery in some places, and it's just all these, different ecosystems together. And you're like, what a beautiful city. And then winter comes.
It's fair. So my biggest not paying attention to my surroundings story. So years ago, so when I was in college, I ran track in college, and my sophomore year, I went in the fall. I had to go out to Colorado for my uncle's wedding, and so I had to do some runs while I was out there. Altitude, which sucks. And so
Oh, yeah.
first of all, we were in Boulder. I had to do a night run because like by the time we got there, so like my dad kind of came with me to make sure everything was okay. And then the next day I went back to that same trail solo. First of all, saw a sign that said beware bears. I'm like, that's great because we're riding at night and it's the sign that says beware bears because we had seen something weird go through. But then on my way back, like literally I ran further, I turn around, I come back and I start looking and I'm like, there's prairie dogs everywhere. I was running in a field of prairie dogs and they didn't even notice. I was like, oh my God, look at them. Like, what was I looking at? Just out there. I'm by like the beautiful mountains, about all this shit. I'm not paying attention to anything, apparently. I'm not paying attention to beware of bear signs. I'm not paying attention to the prairie dogs that were, they were everywhere. And I didn't see it until about 75% of my work was done. And I was like,
what? That's hilarious. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's must have been a sight though, for sure.
The last, let's see, was it last year? When I was in Colorado visiting my sister, we were in Littleton. My parents, and they were taking dogs hiking. So I was like, I'm just going to go for a run. And I was like, well, if I get lost, I get lost. Well, there was a part of the trail that didn't quite look what it should look. And I thought that I could just go into this neighborhood and swing back to the front. And then I realized, no, I wasn't lost. I wasn't in the woods. I was in a suburban area because I exited the trail that I thought could easily scoop back, but it didn't. So I finally had to stop and text hey, so remember I made that joke about, so my 3-mile run turned into a 5.5 mile run.
God, that's funny.
I was never lost though, because I saw houses and I could just drop my GPS at any given time. But those are my not paying attention in Colorado running stories. So,
and when you're not when you're not you don't know your surroundings too, it's easy to get turned around. So for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I always know where the mountains are very easy. You know which direction is west. It's right there. So I always knew that I was heading the right direction, but I just thought that it would cut over, and it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't swing back. I was like, oh, that's not what I remember seeing.
Yeah.
But
but you're here. You made it. So yay.
I got it back. So you talked about, this is another thing I ask people. When you work out, what do you listen to?
Well, it's a little bit of everything. So I will listen to, I'm a big house music fan. Yay, house heads. So house music, but I'll also listen to Fleetwood Mac or Madonna or Busta Rhymes, just like, or like Creedence Clearwater. It really just depends, like what playlist or what I'm feeling that day, what workout I'm doing. I think the harder, like when I'm lifting compared to when I'm doing something like a hit workout, it's going to be different. So something that has like a beat and Team Busta. Um, yeah, I'm kind of all over the place with music, and that's one of like when I teach classes and I play, I'm like, hey guys, like you're not gonna like some, you're gonna like some. This playlist is really for me anyways, so just like deal. So it's just kind of like the day, Sometimes I'll listen to slower stuff and
Mhm.
you know, it just kind of depends. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place.
Nice. When I do hit workouts or like speed workouts, I listen to Tori's mix, her AltaFit mix.
Oh
I
yeah, they're all
freaking love her tour. Like when I
she's
use for classes, yes, like weight training, hard, like it's very different. So when I need to go, I play the same music Tori's mix that she has.
okay.
It's a little bit
Yeah, that's a good
everything.
mix. Yeah.
When I run, I have like a 90s grunge mix. It's like 4 or 5
Ooh.
hours long. If you do Spotify, I can send it to you.
Yes, for sure.
It's
Absolutely.
literally just think Nirvana, grunge,
Yep.
like right, all
Oh,
that.
yes.
Perfect
Oh,
for
love it.
or if you're doing like kind of like a regular weight workout. But actually, one thing I do a lot when I'm doing like the boring cardio is I listen to podcasts.
Yeah. I tried doing that when I do cardio, but I have to listen. So I'll get on YouTube and listen
Mhm.
to like, and listen to these like the hits of 23 or like, like summer, like it's always a different mix. And there's something
Mhm.
about listening to that. And there's always like a picture or someone in concert. I listen to a lot of stuff at the Boiler Room mixes.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of good boiler mixes, and it's fun to see people just like dancing and like getting their groove on. I don't know, it's fun, but yeah, I tried doing the podcast while I do cardio, and it just drops my heart rate. I can't get my heart rate up when I'm listening or like watching a TV show. I
Yeah,
just am like,
I would get motion sick. So yeah,
yeah,
no, I listen. I don't like to like if I'm doing cardio, I don't want to listen to a podcast like this where it's more like chit chat. I
right.
want to listen. So ESPN
Um,
30 for 30 has some really good
yes,
sports related in depth podcasts.
yep,
Those are incredible.
yeah.
Backpacker Magazine has Out Alive, which is survival stories. That's great
Oh
to listen to,
God,
especially when they're
never.
talking about like animal attacks. And I've legit seen coyotes by the lake when
I
I'm
can.
wearing like, you be okay.
Yeah.
So listening to survival stories. And then lately I've been listening to one called Maintenance Phase, where
Okay.
it's very funny, but they basically every episode they take something in the wellness industry and like dive into it of like, all those like Dr. Oz's, all that like shit, right? Like all these trends
Yeah.
here. They just go into the truth about it. And I just love
Oh,
to
that's
listen to
cool.
that. It is. Yeah. So that's what I listen to. But yeah,
That's
just,
cool. I actually had a question for you. So
uh-oh.
like kind of, I know, watch out.
Go right ahead.
Um, I'm getting my interviewer skills going. So one of the things that, like I kind of touched on for a second was that, podcasts right now is like everyone's doing one. And, there's so many different ones out there that cover so many different topics. And, I think, you said that this podcast, obviously, one of the big things is to like reach out. You're interviewing a lot of women in sports and fitness and beyond, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, I would like to know from your point of view, getting started into this, what was kind of like your vision for wanting to do this? What, like then, a year ago or a year and a half ago, whatever, where you were at then and what you wanted to get out of it as to like coming back now, deciding to have a co-host and like all the podcasts you've seen, what you've done, where do you want this to go? Like nurturing this, what's kind of like how do you want your baby to grow up?
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I first started it. So it's like, what year is it? I think it was like
I
November
think it's 24. Okay.
2021. or something. So we started it a bit back, and in Chicago Clubhouse Network. First, I have to answer this question. Michigan won it all. They were the best team in the NCAA this year, but unfortunately, their coach fucked them over with all those sanctions they're about to get hit with. So the players might get that taken away. Sorry, had to do it. These guys know how I feel about these topics. But yeah, so Terrence, who has the network, the guys show on Tuesday, Chicago Clubhouse Podcast focuses on interviewing like ex-Bears players. And I had jumped on a few times as a Lions fan, and he asked me like, would you want to do more? Like, do you want to do your own show? And I kept saying no. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of work. Right. I don't want this. Because at first it was kind of coming the angle of like, do you want to interview just women in Chicago? Kind of like a sister show. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And the more I thought about it, it was like, because anytime a guy has ever played football at any level, right? He could have been like a walk-on on, a D2 team. People think it's the coolest thing, and people always want to interview them for their podcasts. I have multiple teammates that were Olympians who I don't see them on podcasts very often because people aren't asking the women that have done badass shit to the way they ask men who have done less. And so that was my vision. My vision was to give a platform and to acknowledge these women that have done really incredible things, and to basically even the playing field, because so many of the people that do podcasts in the sports world focus on men's professional sports, men's sports, men. I love men, but I don't, you know what I mean? But I get, it was so I want to bring the women into it.
Got it. Okay.
And when I said in the Badass Woman, the sports world and beyond, it was because I never wanted to limit myself either to just female athletes. Because there are so many incredible women that do things. I've had like attorneys, philanthropers, politicians, like all these really awesome businesswomen or just women doing really cool shit. And I wanted to leave it open. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into any one sport, and I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into one kind of industry. So, my first couple of months, like, even though I know so many women that run track, I purposely tried to like limit it to like only 2 track women a month or something. When I first started, I didn't want it to be track. I had to make sure that I spread it out. Now I don't care quite as much. I can have 5 basketball people because I feel like, the body of work is there. The other thing when you also notice too, is I do try to focus on women of color more than white women, because I also feel like women of color's voices have not been heard as much as well. And so there are amazing white women who have done things, and I definitely want to acknowledge them, but I do try to seek out women that are not white women as well, who have done amazing things. So those have kind of been the way that I have done it. What do I want to do going forward? Well, I wanted to bring someone else ideas in, right? I don't want it to get stale. I don't want to just be like, I'm just doing it again, find someone. I want someone else to experience that behind the scenes work, that I do, kind of the brainstorming of what type of topics are interesting. And that was kind of keeping it on the same type of thing. But the thing is, when I have a co-host, I no longer have to have a guest every week. We could just take a topic, it could just be you and I for some weeks as well. So I don't need to have somebody. I'm not going to talk for an hour by myself. Like, I need someone else there. But there needs to be a purpose. So that is my long answer. Oh, well, thank you.
And can you hear me okay? Because my earbuds went out. So I just went,
yes.
Okay, perfect.
You sound beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Well, good. Like, that was a very like honest and great answer. And thank you for sharing that. And I agree with,
change your pace with all his goddamn dudes on our channel. Ugh.
So many dudes on the YouTube. Come on.
Oh, my God,
For sure. We need to get crazy with some ladies here.
Yeah, if I may like go ahead and like expand on that too,
Yes,
it's
I love it.
coming to just think about, what you had said and I'll be honest, like I'm like a dude chick. Like I really like have been really embracing my feminine lately and hanging out with so many wonderful women in the past few years, just more so than in the past. And I think that what the what women have been doing just for forever is amazing, and to want to hold them up and get them out there and showing people what we've done, and how we're changing the world, and what feats we've been through, and being able to have a platform for other people, because we see these great stories, and these women doing things, and creating and performing and achieving all these goals, and then getting this backstory that's not so pretty and not so elegant and not so glamorous. It's And then you're like, oh shit, they're like literally going through some hard stuff.
Yeah.
And so moving forward too, and in all industries, whether it be sports, business, health, or mental health, all these different ways, just in moving forward. And I like love a safe platform and a safe space to be able to discuss all the things that come forward, so that there's relatability, and we learn some things, get to know some new people, be inspired in any way, and not necessarily just inspired to go out and like do some big feat, but even just like to watch and be like, like I was having a bad day, and tomorrow is going to be better because this story really hit me. And I know I listen, and really in the past couple of years going through a lot, I've found a lot of like, I think instinctively, or not instinctively, but like intuitionally, like we'll find things and something will pop up on my Spotify or on my YouTube, and I'm like, I would never watch that. And I'm like, oh, let me check it out. The words sound good. Let me see what it's about. And I'm just like, all day, I'm like, oh, it fired me up. That was so good. And now like I have this new idea. And even just like, the ways people are changing with the planets, and just there's so many different topics, and I'm really excited to be able, to like for you to be able to share this with me, and for me to share stuff with you, and go back and forth, and double our resources to create something that's really special for people, and to have resonate, whether they're a man or a woman. Because I love the concept, but I want also, whatever gender you are, to be able to watch and get something out of it, and to be like, gosh, that was really cool. And I just reaching people and planting seeds, and having afterwards to like think like and be able to reflect, that reflection period after you hear something or watch something is such a great, like, it's just great, and I am all for it. So thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Of course. And that's like really that reflection period. That's a great way, because it's like when you would ask me like, all right, like, which episodes do you recommend I watch? And I'm like, oh,
All
man.
of them.
Like, I mean, I know I had to pick a few key ones, but it's like every single person. I've never had an episode where I'm like, oh, God, is it over? You know what I mean? It's like some people are more talkative than others, and this and that, and some things might be shorter than others, but the time of the episode doesn't necessarily relate to how much that person has impacted me. You know what I mean? Like someone might be a person of a few words, but their story is still incredible, where you're like, oh, I always learn something about a person. And you know what I mean? It's like I feel like connected to people. And there's people that, I've had on my show I didn't know before. And now they're like my, social media friends. And I'm like, this person is just like a really cool person. And, I really like it. And it's also the bringing up women, giving them a space to talk about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say it was what year is it? Maybe it was last year or the year before. So Shayna Cox, she was one of my first guests because she's one of my training partners in college. And if she told me, no, I won't come on your show, I guess it would be really weird at Lena's baby shower when I was like, oh, bitch, you didn't come on my podcast. Oh, you need a ride? You need a ride to get some stuff? Go get that Uber, girl. So she was one of my first guests, and she definitely helped me do the co-host sometimes. And it was like a year or so ago, there was Dee Dee Trotter had posted on Instagram the clip of her opening leg in the 4x4 from the 2012 Olympics. Like she ran like a 49. It was fucking insane. But out in lane 8, it was Shayna running for Great Britain, and she ran, to me, an incredible first leg. And so to see this years later, I was like, wow. So I sent it to her, and she goes, you know, Sherry, she's like, I've actually never watched that race. And I was like, what? You were incredible. She's like, I didn't feel like I ran well. And she just was like ashamed of her performance. She was like almost embarrassed of her performance. And then
I get that.
10 years later, she watches it and she realized it was actually a really good performance. She ran amazing. She had Great Britain right in the thick of it. It was only because Dee Dee Trotter ran something fucking insane that she just felt like, you know what I mean? And so that kind of touched me. It was like, you know, someone that I hold athletically in like the highest esteem, right? Like Shayna is, you know, NCAA champion, Olympic semifinalist, Olympic finalist. So for her to what I thought was like such an amazing thing to see her on my TV and doing it, and I was so proud of her. And for her to feel embarrassed, I was like, damn, I can't believe you're feeling embarrassed for 10 years about this, because it was such a great race.
So inspiring,
It's so great now that she's like proud of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, and that's bitch.
Yeah. And I think that goes to say, it's seriously, I from my experience too, is looking back, and we may all have this where we look back, like at the moment, it was a bad race, it was a bad show, it was a bad whatever, and we're like down on it. We like hide the pictures, hide the video, don't watch because we're so whatever. And then years later, like I'll look back at old pictures from like competitions, and I knew in that moment, like I was like, oh, I'm so fluffy and da da da, and I'm like down on myself, or I didn't do well. And I look back and I'm like, shit. I was like, I actually was okay. Like I was so much better, because our perspective, we're like in a different experience. You've experienced, and we just like know more now, and there's just more respect for ourselves too. But yeah, and be able for somebody to be able to look back at one of these shows that they're on and like hear themselves talk about what they've accomplished. And then be like, holy shit, I've done some stuff. Like I'm, you know, and I love that. And it's that looking back, like we were talking about reflections, always like kind of looking back. We always say like, don't look back, look forward. Well, sometimes it's really important to look back and be proud of ourselves, because we've all had moments of just, you know, whatever, like terrible times or hard times. And in those moments, yes, crazy, we never give ourselves enough. We're our worst critics, and we never give ourselves enough credit. So it's time that we like really be able to do that, and to just take a moment to like appreciate that we have our own personal greatness in one way or another. And it's okay to shine for that moment, and to shine like for as long as you want to shine. Like you won something in 2000 or in 1959, and you are 75, and you're like, I won in high school this race where we were, you know, this like, you know, the one-legged race, and I won it. And you're going to still to this day, 70 years later, be proud of it. Go for it. And I will always want to listen to you talk about it.
So I saw a reel where the person set their alarm clock to hand claps. Ovation when they wake up and feel accomplished. Honestly, though, like you have another day. I love it. Good for you. You're still alive. So yeah, it's that is great. I love it.
One of my Someone out here. So Samantha, so we were talking about music. She had said something about Go Speed Racer, and like there's a song Go Speed Racer. And so that's something I actually had on my playlist, Sam, for like ever. It's like, here comes Speed Racer. And it's like this like really like it's from the cartoon. And so I literally had that on my playlist. That's going back to conversations ago, but I had that on my music playlist because it was it's a good run song. So Sherry, if you're ever going for a run and you need like good music, it would be like when you're just kind of like coming down to the end and you need that little speed. Yeah, it's great. And they've just like 1,000 new like trap mixes and house music mixes of it. You can find whatever you're looking for.
I love it. Yeah, honestly, that's why I love goal planning. No matter the size of the goal, always celebrate the accomplishments. And it's one thing I love about obstacle course racing and Ninja in particular is it's really easy to set small goals. There are a ton of small goals of things that you can accomplish that will reach the overarching goals. So you can have your main one. I'm a huge goal setter. I have and for me, a lot of my goals are performance based, as in I like to get my medals. I like to be on podiums. Obviously, most people can't, right? You have to be a fast runner to get there. But a lot of my other goals too are DWAM, DWAM.
Yes, DWAM, yep.
We set A, B, and C goals, right? Our A goal is this is the best thing. B goal is we did really well. C goal is cool. I did it. And I make sure that all my goals are not just related to my competition. I want to make sure that I have goals related to the race. So some race it might be run a clean race, right? Get through all the obstacles or, do something. And sometimes you have to adjust those. Like when I flew out to Montana for my race last year and there was a severe storm. It was raining for 2 days and it was 40-some degrees. And I was like, wow, that time goal that I set for myself of running sub 2 hours on this 10K, that's probably not going to happen in these conditions. So I revised my goal of like, all right, I hope I run it under 2.5 hours. Like that's a shitty time for me, but I was like, that's going to be my goal. And I ran a 2:12. So I almost hit my original goal. And so now when I put it into the whole of how shitty the conditions were, it was like, and with of the 4 hanging obstacles, everything was just disgusting, right? I got one of them. Most people got, so I got the twister because I could put my little hands and everything twice and I was able to hold on, and the volunteer there was like, holy shit, like, everyone else is falling. Didn't really hear bells ring. And I'm like, I'm a ninja coach. So, that helps. But two, but it's, those bigger bars, like my hand just, when they're muddy, I just like fly. There's nothing I can do. So it's about setting your goals, but also giving yourself grace to reset the goals when you need to, when you see things like condition. When we think about our kids, like teach them the small goals, celebrate those small victories of the things that come along. And that's the great thing about Ninja too, is there's so many like little obstacles, right? You can get like 1 foot longer on your lache, or you can, get 2 feet higher in your warp wall, or, all these like tiny little things. And then some days you're just not going to do as well. And that's okay too. It really is.
And I think we really push that too, like in the classes, is that, I had someone in the class and she's like, I've done a lache once or twice, and then the next time, and I'm like, that's going to happen. Like you're sometimes your head's going to be in it. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes like you've done lache for months now, and then one day you're just not feeling it. And there's like a fear, there's something in your body that's telling you not today. And listen to your body.
I get scared. And for people who don't know what lache is, that's when you're swinging from one thing, you swing, you catch the next thing. And sometimes I get scared. Like if it's further and you're like, ooh, I'm not ready for this. I had one day where I felt like the shoes I was wearing were too heavy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I have one pair of shoes.
Things. And so I took those shoes off, and then I was lachaing with just my socks on, and I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. Mentally, I didn't like wearing those shoes to lache. They're like maybe this much heavier than the other ones. But it's like the smallest thing, because if you're if you're swinging and you're about to launch your body, you know, 5, 6, whatever many
You got to be
feet,
comfortable.
and you're, you know, this, and you're thinking about your feet, that's not correct at all. So
No.
it's really, yeah, it's like, you know, but yeah, I'm a big believer, ABC goals. And, you know, one thing I was talking to Leo about a little bit, because Leo, you know, is competing in the ninja circuit.
Oh yeah,
and
he's so
talented. But like the
yes.
one thing I was talking to him about was training cycles. So
Yes.
if you look at my season from last year, the races that I did the best at were not by chance, right? Those were the races that I had starred and I had circled as those are my peaks. These are my peaks. So
Yep.
some other races were just, you know, kind of in there, or, you know, I want to challenge myself by doing like, you know, Montana, like those crazy hills, you know what I mean? Like I want this is like a training race here, but I'm like, these races are where I'm, you know, focusing on. And guess which races I did best at? The ones that I had done my training around and that I had purposely peaked at. So it's something that, you know, he's learning, and it's, you know, it's from track training cycle. It just goes into my mind, right? I'm in base mode. I just think of it. But, you know, if people haven't done like a competitive sport or something like that, like they're like, what do you mean training cycles? Like, what the hell does that mean? And, you know, to me, it's almost intuitive, right? But
right.
it
And
is.
it's true. It's
but
true.
you can't go, I cannot do high powered hit speed work, you know, every week, every day. I just cannot do it. I have to put in the base work. I have to increase my strength. I have to do the boring shit. Girl, I run 5Ks in my stairwell when the weather is shitty. 5Ks. I run 3+ miles up and down 4 flights of stairs. I do half of it in one stairwell, and then I run down the hall and do the other half in the stairwell, so I'm not always going the same direction. So I can get my hips.
Good for you.
Do you know how boring that is?
Good for you. I will sit from the sidelines and applaud you all day. I will have the thing, you know, and like be cheering you on with the clappers, because I don't know if that sounds great.
But I'd rather do that than a Stairmaster. You know, I would rather. And I need to practice running down. That is a huge thing from running stadium races, from running Spartan races. You cannot always practice going up. You need to practice going down.
It's totally different on the knees and the quad and the whole body.
100%.
Yeah, I
love it.
Well, good for you. That's amazing.
But to close out our intro show to Faydra, I have a couple things to share. So first of all, this is our magical night where all the magic happened. In the middle, that's Jordan. That is the groom. We got Faydra down the bottom, me there, our other lovely ninja friends.
Oh, that was
this is what happens when we did a whole ass workout at this wedding. We built human pyramids. We threw Jordan. We had a standing long jump competition.
We did. Oh my gosh. And some people in shoes.
So yes, we did this. This is what and we all went to bed pretty early too, because we went hard. We went hard.
Yeah, there was a lot of dancing that night. I was sweating. That dress was made from which she'll be a guest, but it's basically made from material that like scuba suits are made out of.
Oh yeah.
And as we'll get to know, I love to dance. It is like my favorite thing. And so I was sitting there, like I had my hair all did, like it was so straight and beautiful when I got there. It was like up and sweating, and I'm like taking napkins. I was like a hot mess by the end. I didn't even care. I was like, that was fun. But the dress did not let me breathe.
So much fun. We had so much fun. It was such a fun wedding. It was.
Oh, see, magical weddings bring people together.
It was a magical moment. And then we talk about the model.
Oh, gee. Oh, yeah.
Can we talk about this hottie right here? Girl, this is what T-Nick was trying to put as your promo. And I was like, no.
That's about how wet I was at the wedding, too, from sweating, by the way.
This is Faydra at the wedding.
That's me after dancing. Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God. And then my personal favorite.
Oh, yes.
Girl,
yes.
look at you.
Shout out to
too.
Jermaine for those. God, he's great. Thank you. Those are fun. Yeah.
I love it. I forgot to get one of the snake ones too. The one
Oh,
I put it on the promo, obviously, of you
yeah,
holding
yeah,
the
yeah,
snake.
yeah. Yeah, the
Oh,
snake shit was great.
girl.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those. Yeah. I do like to have a little fun.
Yes. So yes, guys, this was our intro to Faydra. On that note,
This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
bye.
Bye.